The sun hung low in the sky, painting the western horizon in shades of orange and gold. Dust swirled along the empty streets of the small frontier town, carrying the faint smell of hay, leather, and campfire smoke. Jake Thompson nudged his horse forward, its hooves clopping softly on the wooden boards that served as the main street. He was a tall man, lean and strong from years of riding the open plains. His hat shaded eyes that had seen much more than most, though they held a quiet, calm, as if nothing could shake him. Life on the trail had taught him patience and careful thought, lessons that made him reliable but also, in some ways, lonely. Jake had been traveling for days, guiding cattle from one ranch to another, stopping only at small towns to rest and resupply. Each town felt the same. A few dusty streets, a general store, a blacksmith, and a handful of houses. People nodded as he passed, recognizing him as just another drifter who worked hard and spoke little. He preferred it that way. Life was simpler on his own. But that afternoon, as he rounded a bend in the trail leading out of the town, he noticed something unusual. A small wagon was stuck near the river crossing. The wheel dug deep into the soft earth. The river nearby bubbled and splashed over the stones. Its current swift but not dangerous. A young woman stood beside the wagon, wiping sweat from her forehead with the edge of her shawl. She looked exhausted, the kind of tired that comes from traveling alone for too many days. Her hair was tied back carelessly, and her eyes shone with determination, despite her weariness. "Excuse me," she called as Jake approached. "Could you help me, please?" Jake pulled his horse to a stop a few feet away. He studied her carefully. She didn't seem afraid, just tired and worried. Her voice had a quiet strength that reminded him of people he'd met in towns who never gave up, no matter how hard life was. "Where are you headed?" Jake asked, dismounting and walking closer. "My family," she said simply, glancing at the horizon where the sun touched the distant hills. "I'm trying to reach my brother's farm. I've been traveling for a week, but now I can't go any farther. I don't know what to do." Her hands shook slightly as she gestured to the broken wheel. Jake knelt and examined it. The wood had cracked badly, and he knew fixing it here would take hours. Time he didn't have. The trail ahead was long, and night would fall soon. Taking a stranger along could slow him down, put them both at risk. He frowned, considering his options. "Can't you wait here for help?" he asked. She shook her head quickly. "No one comes this way for days. I can't stay here alone. Please, take me with you. I don't know anyone else. I don't want to be left here." Her voice was quiet now, almost a whisper, but it carried a weight of desperation that touched him. Jake paused. He had traveled with men before, sometimes with a few horses, occasionally with cattle, but never with a woman he didn't know. It was unusual, even risky. But he looked into her eyes and saw something that made the decision easier than he expected. There was courage there, a willingness to try, even when things were hard. It reminded him of the days when he had been alone, walking trails where no one came for help. "All right," he said finally, "you can ride with me." Her face brightened with relief, and she thanked him quietly. She climbed carefully onto the back of his horse, clutching her bundle tightly. Jake swung up behind her, adjusted the reins, and nudged the horse forward. The horse splashed through the shallow edge of the river, carrying them past the broken wagon and toward the open plains beyond. As they rode, the wind lifted strands of her hair around her face. She kept glancing at the horizon, at the hills, and the distant line of trees, as if searching for hope. Jake noticed the small details, the way her eyes reflected the sun, the gentle way she held herself despite her fatigue, and the quiet determination that had carried her this far alone. "You've been traveling long?" Jake asked, keeping his voice even. "Yes," she replied softly. "Since my parents passed, I've been trying to reach my brother's farm. I didn't have anyone else to turn to. I thought I could manage, but I was wrong." Jake nodded, understanding more than she might have realized. He had spent years alone on the trail, feeling the same mix of hope and fear. "It's a long way yet," he said. "You need to be careful. There are rough trails ahead, and it's easy to get lost if you don't watch the signs." "I will," she said firmly. "I'm not afraid. I can't do it alone anymore." The ride continued in silence for a while. The only sound, the steady clip-clop of the horse, and the occasional call of a bird overhead. Jake kept glancing at her from time to time, noticing the small shifts in her posture, the way she leaned slightly forward when she tried to see the path ahead. It was clear she had been traveling for too long without a break. Eventually, they reached a stretch of rocky ground. Jake guided the horse carefully, showing her how to keep her balance and stay steady. She listened intently, following his instructions with care. It was not an easy journey, but for the first time in days, she felt as though someone was watching out for her. As evening approached, the sky turned a deeper shade of red, and the wind grew colder. Jake spotted a small grove of trees near the trail, a good place to make camp for the night. He led the horse under the shelter of the trees, and they dismounted. She thanked him quietly, laying her bundle down on a patch of grass. "You should rest," Jake said. "We'll start early tomorrow." She nodded, settling down by the fire he made. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along." Jake said nothing, simply watched the fire crackle, and thought about the day's events. One decision, simple but significant, had changed everything. He had chosen to help someone in need, and already, the world seemed a little less lonely. That night, they shared stories by the fire. She told him about her parents, the farm she had grown up on, and the long journey she had undertaken alone. He shared bits of his own life, careful not to give away too much. There was a quiet connection forming between them, built on mutual respect and shared hardship. As stars appeared in the night sky, she looked up and smiled faintly. "I feel safer now," she said softly. "I was scared before, but now, I feel like I have a chance." Jake nodded, watching the firelight dance across her face. "You do," he said simply, "and we'll get you there. Just stay steady, and we'll keep moving." Sleep came slowly for both of them, but it was a peaceful kind of tired. Jake could feel the rhythm of the land beneath him, the quiet pull of the open plains, and he knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel entirely alone. The night was calm, the stars bright, and the wind soft against the trees. Somewhere far off, an owl called, and the river murmured in the distance. Jake and Emma rested, each thinking about the long journey ahead and the unexpected bond that had formed in just a few short hours. One simple decision, agreeing to take her along, had changed the course of their lives. By the time the first light of dawn touched the horizon, they were ready to move again. Jake helped her onto the horse, and together, they faced the rising sun. The trail ahead uncertain, but filled with possibility. Neither knew exactly what challenges awaited them, but both understood that they would face them together, one step at a time. The journey had begun, and already, their lives were intertwined in ways neither could have imagined. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the open plains. Jake led the horse along the trail, keeping a steady pace as Emma clung lightly behind him. The morning air was fresh, filled with the scent of wildflowers and the soft hum of insects waking from the night. The river they had crossed the day before glimmered in the distance, reflecting the sky's brightening colors. The journey ahead promised long hours of riding, but the silence between them felt comfortable, as if they both understood the importance of observation and quiet strength. Emma's legs grew sore from the ride, but she remained determined. She had come too far to turn back now, and the trust she placed in Jake gave her courage. "How far to your brother's farm?" Jake asked, breaking the quiet. 2 more days, maybe 3, she replied, shading her eyes with her hand. If we keep this pace, we should reach it before nightfall, on the 3rd day. Jake nodded. He didn't speak much, but he observed the land closely. The rocks, the trees, the gentle rise and fall of the hills. A careful traveler always paid attention, because the plains were full of surprises, both beautiful and dangerous. Today, however, the trail seemed calm. Birds flitted from branch to branch, and the soft wind carried the scent of pine from a distant grove. As the morning wore on, they came across a narrow pass between 2 hills. The path was rocky, and Jake guided the horse carefully, slowing to ensure both he and Emma stayed steady. She had grown accustomed to the long hours of riding, and her confidence increased with each step. She learned how to shift her weight, to balance, and even to notice small details about the trail that could signal potential obstacles. During a short break near a shaded stream, Emma unpacked a small bundle of bread and dried fruit. They shared it quietly, watching as dragonflies skimmed the water's surface. "I never thought someone would help me," she said softly. "I was scared I'd be alone forever, wandering these trails." Jake looked at her and gave a small nod. "Sometimes, people just need a chance," he said simply. "And sometimes, we get a chance to help. It's how life balances itself." Her eyes met his, and a smile tugged at her lips. "I'm glad it was you," she said. The next day brought challenges of a different kind. The trail led them through a dense forest where sunlight barely touched the ground. Twisting roots and uneven soil made the ride tricky. Emma held tightly to the reins as Jake guided the horse slowly through the trees. The sounds of the forest surrounded them, birds calling, leaves rustling, and the occasional crack of a twig underfoot. At one point, a small deer bounded across the path, startling Emma slightly. Jake chuckled softly, and she laughed too, the sound light and freeing. By mid-afternoon, they emerged from the forest onto a wide, open plain. Rolling hills stretched in every direction, dotted with wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Jake paused to let Emma take in the view. "It's incredible," she replied. "I've never seen so much open land. It makes all the hardships of the journey seem small when you see this." As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, they approached a small settlement. It was a simple place, with a few wooden buildings and a fenced area for livestock. Smoke curled lazily from chimneys, and the faint sound of children laughing reached their ears. Emma's face brightened, hope returning after the long journey. Jake guided the horse to a safe spot near the town's edge. "This is the place your brother mentioned?" he asked. Emma nodded eagerly. "Yes. I can see the farmhouse just beyond those hills. We're almost there." But as they neared the farmhouse, a sudden commotion caught their attention. A group of townspeople had gathered in the main square, talking in hurried voices and pointing toward a barn on the outskirts. Jake and Emma approached cautiously, and an elderly man stepped forward. "Are you travelers?" the man asked, his voice calm but urgent. "We need help. The livestock were trapped last night during a sudden storm. Some of the fences were damaged, and we need hands to guide the animals back safely." Jake glanced at Emma, who nodded with determination. They both dismounted, ready to help. For hours, they worked alongside the townspeople, guiding frightened cows and horses back into their pens. Emma's strength and quick thinking impressed everyone, and Jake's skill with animals made the task easier. Together, they restored order to the farm and the surrounding fields, earning the respect of everyone around them. As night fell, the townspeople gathered around a large fire. They offered Jake and Emma food and a place to rest for the evening. The warmth of the fire, the soft murmur of conversation, and the sense of accomplishment created a comforting atmosphere. Emma felt her heart swell with gratitude. She had come so far, and now she was surrounded by people who cared about her safety and well-being. Jake, sitting beside her, spoke quietly. "You handled yourself well today," he said. "I can see why your brother's farm was so important to you. You have a strong spirit. Emma smiled, brushing her hair behind her ear. I couldn't have done it without you, she replied. You believed in me, when I didn't even believe in myself. The next morning, they prepared for the final leg of their journey. Emma could see the farmhouse clearly now, its white walls gleaming in the early sunlight. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness, thinking about reuniting with her family after so long. Jake led the way carefully, keeping a watchful eye on the trail ahead. The plains stretched endlessly before them, but now the journey felt lighter, less daunting. Emma had learned so much from traveling with him: the rhythm of riding, how to stay calm under pressure, and the importance of trusting someone who had your back. When they finally reached the farmhouse, a figure appeared at the doorway. A tall man with kind eyes rushed forward, calling Emma's name. She leapt from the horse, running into his arms. Tears of relief and joy filled her eyes as they embraced. Jake watched quietly from a short distance, feeling a sense of satisfaction in seeing her safe. Her brother turned to Jake and shook his hand warmly. Thank you for bringing her here safely, he said. I don't know what we would have done without you. Jake nodded simply, tipping his hat. It was my choice, he said. I'm glad she made it safely. Emma turned back to him, her eyes shining. You changed everything for me, she said softly. I'll never forget what you did. Jake smiled faintly, feeling something he hadn't in a long time: a sense of connection and purpose. The journey had changed him as much as it had changed her. One decision to take her along when he could have continued alone had led to safety, friendship, and a bond that would last a lifetime. As he mounted his horse to leave, Emma waved from the porch. Thank you, Jake. Take care of yourself out there. You too, he replied, tipping his hat once more. He rode away slowly, the wind on his face, and the open plains ahead. The sun rose higher, shining down on the land he loved so much. Jake knew that life on the trail would continue to be full of challenges, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a warmth in his heart, a reminder that even small decisions could change lives in remarkable ways. The journey they had shared, though brief, had left an enduring mark on both of them. Emma had found her family and safety, but more importantly, she had discovered courage and resilience she didn't know she possessed. Jake, the solitary cowboy, had realized that helping someone else could bring unexpected meaning to his life. They had faced the unknown together, and the bond forged in those dusty trails would remain, unbroken by distance or time. As the horizon stretched endlessly before him, Jake rode on, the plains whispering their timeless song. The story of a simple choice, take me with you, please, had reshaped two lives forever. And in that quiet, golden morning, he felt the profound truth that sometimes the greatest adventures began not with planning or skill, but with a single act of kindness and courage.